First of all, welcome. Thank you for coming today. I know some of you traveled a great distance, and it's a beautiful day, unseasonably mild, lovely, and you had choices today. I mean, we're always grateful for everyone who chooses to come and share our events with us. This event, I'm getting a little bit excited about this. I was explaining just before where we started. We started out of not a good episode in Amherst. It was the spring of was it 2014? Spring of 2014, and there was a college party gone awry, and because of the way the calendar fell, there's a time just before the spring break that falls right around St. Patrick's Day, and the bars in town sorted it out and figured out they could open early that day, and it became a mess, and it was unfortunately dubbed the Blarney Broil. And I remember very clearly Ida coming to me just on fire about this. And to her credit, she said, we can turn this into something good. We can turn this into something positive. And I've said it before here, I think what happened that day, in fact I was just saying, it's only a few who somehow managed to stain the many, and that's what happened in that episode. But we started this because of it, and you can see on those are our posters from each of the previous years and this year's events. And today, what we did with this essay competition, I think this is coming closest to what we dreamed of all along, because I read all the essays. First of all, I want to thank all the people who submitted essays. And our three finalists, to me, this is what it means to be Irish in Amherst, because the quality of the writing, the passion, the feelings. And when I read those essays, I'm like a lot of people today. I'm searching for the new leaders. I'm searching for the people who will take us through where we are now, which, pardon the advertisement, but I think many of us are not thrilled with where we are now. And I look to the new leaders who are coming along, and I find them in that writing. And I'm so excited about what we're going to hear today. I wish we had a few more people here, because this is the thing that energizes us when we think about what it means. We're so blessed in this town. We see people leave their children here, and then they come back and get their adults who are going on to be the leaders. And so I'm a town native. I've been watching this for my whole life, and it means everything to me to see the people who come through this town. And we always love it when they come back. And some of them really find it in their heart to make this their home. And that's always a nice thing too. So that's where we started, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's what we were after with the Margaret Maher Award. And I'm going to turn it over to Brooke from the Emily Dickinson Museum to tell us a little bit more about Margaret.
Too about the museum in case you're not as familiar with us. My name is Brooke Steinhauser. I'm the program director there, and we're located just down the street. So we'll be closed by the time we are finished with this beautiful event today, but we're open Wednesday through Sunday, so come see us sometime. I'm of the opinion that we who live in the Pioneer Valley are extremely lucky, even if you're here just during the academic year, and not the least of which reasoning behind that is our close association with sort of giants of the American literature. Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost, Robert Francis, the list goes on and on. So at the Emily Dickinson Museum, we really believe, of course, in celebrating that. And we believe that one of the best ways to do that is to let these literary legacies inspire other people. In our programming at the museum, that means we are interested in things like open mics that happen once a month, where you get the chance to actually share your work in Emily Dickinson's home. We put on a poetry festival each fall. We have workshops that are immersive, that bring educators from around the country to town to spend a week with Emily Dickinson and figure out how to bring her to life in their classrooms. One upcoming program that I'll just give the tiniest of plugs for while I'm here, because it's a week from today. It's happening at Johnson Chapel at Amherst College. We'll be honoring Garrison Keillor. He will be here. He'll be putting on a benefit performance with the museum, and we'll be presenting him with the museum's Tell It Slant Award, which of course comes from an Emily Dickinson poem, Tell All the Truth, but Tell It Slant. Success in Serpent Lies. So you can look that one up for yourself, but that will be a week from today. So beyond Emily Dickinson's home here in the Valley, she has been translated into dozens of languages and has made her mark on readers around the world. We have a very international visitorship at the museum, and in the summertime particularly, we see visitors from Japan and Italy. French Canadians seem to come to us in the fall. That's sort of another subset. And we see a lot of Irish visitors as well. I'm told that in Ireland, she is introduced fairly early on in a grade school curriculum, along with their more native William Butler Yeats. Of course, Dickinson had her own connection to Ireland in the form of the domestic servants who came to work for her family. Amherst's Irish immigrant population, like so many American towns, increased significantly around the 1840s, around the time of the famine. So it's quite fitting that in 1850, the Dickinson family hired their first domestic servant, who was a recent Irish American. She would be the first of several new Irish Americans to be in the employ of the family before the end of Emily Dickinson's life. There is a book by Aoife Murray that you should definitely pick up called Made as Muse that explores the ways that domestic service allowed Dickinson the freedom to write and the ways in which exposure to Irish inflection, folklore, music would have had an impact on her writing. It's a fascinating book. But the Irish American of perhaps greatest influence on the poet was probably Maggie Maher, Margaret Maher, who the family hired in 1869. The poet's letters are full of brief references to Maggie, and they present her as part of the family, despite the social prescriptions of domestic service. She wrote, "Maggie, good and noisy, the north wind of the family, but sweets without salt would soon cloy." So I think right there you get a sense of who this Maggie was. She was sharp-witted. She had a bright, burning intellect, which I think Emily Dickinson felt perhaps she met some kind of match in, and she was really cherished in this household. And there's good evidence that the bulk of Dickinson's poetic manuscripts were stored in Maher's trunk, in Maggie's trunk. There are a couple of other possible locations where they may have been stored, but I like to think that Emily put those manuscripts into Maggie's care. And the one daguerreotype, if you think of Emily Dickinson in your head, you're probably thinking of one particular image. It was taken when she was about 16. It was not a favorite of the family's, so they, at some point, it came into Maggie's possession. Whether Emily Dickinson gave it to Maggie herself, we don't know. But we do know that Maggie then presented it after Emily Dickinson had died as an image for the very first edition of Emily Dickinson's poems, published posthumously in 1890. So that was Maggie coming forward and saying, let's include this. So you can imagine that at the museum we were delighted to hear that the Amherst Irish Association would be celebrating young writers in the name of Maggie this year. In a very short time, the association has done a lot to promote literary culture here in the Valley, and we are really thrilled to be part of this most recent endeavor. I want to congratulate the 3 finalists here, and my hope is that these young writers and the young writers who participated in the competition will continue to explore this shared creative landscape, both at home and abroad. So thank you for having me, and good luck to you all.
Brooke. Thank you, Sam. Fóidearóibh go léir go dtí an ócáid speisialta seo. I'm welcoming you in Irish, first language of the Republic of Ireland. Tá mé tharbh riachtaíomh a bheansá bneomh lá bra éireach. We are really grateful that you came here today on such a beautiful sunny day. The downside of that is that, of course, some of our other members have seen fit to stay outdoors. But please be assured that by filming today, we have a record of what we thought were superb essays, and we thank you all for your work. Before I come to each of our finalists today, let me thank Brooke for her introduction to Maggie Maher, a wonderful connection to Emily Dickinson in this town of ours. I also want to acknowledge Susan Gertie-Cushell from the Boston Consulate, who's Ireland's representative in America, the Vice Consul, and her colleague Finola Quinlan, who's the Consul General, who has been called back to Ireland. There's been hurricanes and the devil and all, so she had to go at very short notice. But we want to acknowledge that from the beginning, we have had the support of the Irish Consulate, and that small grants from the Immigrant Support Programme have enabled us to advertise our small association. So can we have a round of applause for this? We know it didn't come out of her own purse, but still she's been extremely helpful with our next proposal, so we're delighted to have you here. Thank you for making the journey. I need to thank a few other people, if you can just bear with me, what we call in Irish a míle buíochas, 1,000 thanks. Sam and Tim. Sam, co-chair, Tim, who does all the web work, did all the application forms through the web, a very kind of new learning curve for us as a small community-based association, figuring it out, PayPal and all that stuff. So Tim, he's probably managing the door again. The person behind the scenes, the shy person, as you know from the few words of Irish I've been using here. So we have a very good team in Annie Rogers as well. I want to acknowledge Annie there, who has been a stellar member of our, and the person who's really the tea and scones organizer. So let me assure you that after the presentations, they're the most delicious tea and scones. We've made a point of hosting our events not in a pub, but in a beautiful venue, and offering tea and scones as a counterpoint to one of those stronger stereotypes that kind of influence the madness that was our beginning. So there is a logic to, and it's a lovely time for us to meet one another, hence the name badges. So, I want to mention also the community here. We've had support from lots of people within the community, 2 folks arriving now, Jonathan and Amanda, stalwarts who teach Irish language, American-born, several generations on, fluent in the Irish language, offer an online course which is starting on November 1st. Their information is on the table. They have an innovative online language program. So I think I've done all the thanks. Thanks to you. For Amina Margaret. So our format, we will have each of the finalists present, and by a random poll, Heather won out as the first person. So I'll just say a little bit of how each of you have described yourselves. So Heather, Monica, and then Sarah, okay? And then we have a brief Q&A, just to have an engagement with the audience with each of our finalists. And then Susan will present the award to the winner. And then our 2 runners-up will be presented by Brooke with your prize, the Margaret Maher Award, or however you want to call her, Maher. Okay, so I think I even had this off. Heather, you are from San Diego, California, and currently a sophomore at Amherst College, an English major, and play on the field hockey team. And we're delighted to welcome your parents and your grandparents. A round of applause for them. Monica Caragiano, will you pronounce it for me? Caggiano. Originally from Peabody, Massachusetts, a senior in sports management major at UMass Amherst, where she currently acts as the president of the Women in Sports Management Club. Welcome, Monica. Sam Haddad is a art history double major at Mount Holyoke College, graduating in the spring of 2019. She lives in New York, but considers her home Newtown, County Tipperary, where she has the finest memories of a childhood visiting family during summers. She is passionate about increasing women's equality and actually has Mahers in her family. So welcome, Sam. You know, we are recording today for our web, so there will be a record that you will always have, all three of you and your families, to hold on to. Thank you very much. Heather, I don't think you need the microphone, but would you like to use it?
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm Heather, so you didn't already hear, but thank you for my parents and my grandparents for coming, and I'm very glad to meet all of you. To me, it's always summer at the Emily Dickinson Museum. Even though I've walked past the old yellow house countless nights throughout the season, in my mind's eye, summer forever reigns, everything the same as the time I first glimpsed it during my orientation program at Amherst. There, our orientation leaders handed each of us a small black notebook and urged us to write poetry. Though for some this task was a burden, that day at the museum I gained the freedom to write and not expect perfection. I became a poet, and in doing so, I became a writer. A true writer, in that I enjoyed writing and had hope that it could one day improve, and maybe even improve me, if I was lucky. With this hope in my lungs and a new place in my mind's eye, I turned towards Ireland. As an English major, my path from college to the working world runs through Amherst, but I believe that Ireland could be a valuable stop along the way. Through visiting Ireland, I hope to explore its literary attractions and use its history and beautiful landscape to inspire and improve my own writing. Understudied in most English programs, Irish literature has the potential to teach much about fiction, poetry, theater, language, and more. I believe that visiting Ireland's various monuments and attractions devoted to its best writers could teach me much more than any professor in an American classroom. Through exploring Ireland's literary history, I will learn what constitutes great writing from the Irish perspective. Dublin Writers Museum, the Trinity College Library, James Joyce Centre, Franklin Court Museum, the National Library of Ireland, the Abbey Theatre. An ambitious bucket list, to be sure, but it would offer a comprehensive summary of Irish literary history that gains authenticity and resonance when experienced in Ireland itself. Each site provides a mix of history, literature, and tourism that invites travelers not just to witness their attractions, but to experience them, learn from them, and take away something more meaningful than a simple photograph. To be fair, Ireland is nothing if not photogenic, which is why so many writers chose it as their inspiration. Exploring Ireland's natural beauty would also lend material for me to write about, and offer an atmosphere of reflection and wonder that only stunning landscapes can generate. Centuries of great writers have found their muse in Ireland, and I intend to do the same. In addition, I plan on being in Ireland for more than just a week. I would like to study abroad there next year with IES Abroad, the same program that my own sister used for her semester in Spain. She spoke very highly of the IES courses and staff, which prompted me to investigate what they offer in Ireland. The most promising option is their Dublin Writers Program, which specializes in improving students' writing skills with a focus on Irish literature. These historically based courses would benefit from a background knowledge of not only Ireland in general, but specifically its literary history. Visiting Ireland before studying there would help me gather information on its writers and its attractions that I could then draw on in my studies, including a knowledge of its language. IES offers an introductory course on Irish language and culture that I would like to take, and exploring the Irish-speaking areas of the country would help me to begin to learn about the language. Having the time to explore the country without the limitation of school would lend the freedom and creativity necessary to fully absorb what I discover there and apply it later in my courses. I intend to take my time getting to know Ireland, but I wish to visit over spring break to familiarize myself with the country and the time needed to appreciate it fully. Traveling to Ireland would serve as the catalyst I need to revitalize my learning process of how to write passionately, to write well, and to enjoy writing for writing's sake.
I hope that Amherst can continue to support and foster my growth as a writer, student, and traveler. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. Our next finalist, Monica Gangiano.
First, I'd like to just say thank you for this opportunity. This is like the coolest thing I've seen come up in my email. Growing up just north of Boston, Massachusetts, I built a dream in my head of what I wanted my life to look like. Much like other American kids from similar upbringings, I yearned for a picturesque, upper middle class, suburban life that included a fancy job and a big house in a cul-de-sac. The only goal I had in mind came in the form of a classic American dream, because like many other Americans, that was the only thing I knew to desire. However, my dream changed when I met my first true love. The first time I went to Ireland, I was 18 years old. The purpose of the trip was to meet my Irish relatives who no one in my family had seen since my mother was a teenager herself. All I really knew of the country was the music. I was fascinated by the abundance of talent and the beautiful art and form of song that Ireland was so famous for. As a natural-born history buff, I was also quite taken by the rich history that Ireland had to offer. I was beyond excited to explore the country for the first time, but I had no real expectations as far as the culture went, and was unaware of how it would end up shaping my own beliefs and ideas. When I first arrived in Ireland, my family and I left the Dublin airport and headed south to County Waterford, where I would soon meet my relatives and become acquainted with the tiny village of Fenner that would change my life as I knew it. The host of our trip was my mother's cousin, a dairy farmer by the name of Kevin Burns, often referred to as Stunner. He quickly took me under his wing and changed my perspective on the world and the life I dreamed for myself. To understand how Stunner and his village changed me, you must first understand what Fenner is like. The Copper Coast village is made up entirely of a school, a pub named Mother McHugh's, a church, and of course a field for hurling and Gaelic football matches. This field, known as William Flynn Park, is vital in many ways to my love story with Ireland. To start, it is the apple of Fenner's eye. It was built by the hands of members of the community themselves who donated their time and what money they had to drain the bog behind Mother McHugh's and replace it with a brand new home to the Fenner GAA. Stunner proudly showed me pictures of the men of Fenner coming together in their downtime to build something so cherished by their village. I remember being hit with the realization that I had never seen something in my life accomplished this way before. I was immediately drawn to that sense of community and selflessness that allowed this project to be completed in the first place. A love for Ireland was quickly growing within me, and that picture in my head of what I wanted my life to look like was soon beginning to mirror the lifestyle and values I'd seen in Fenner. My GAA experience did not stop there, however. The Gaelic Athletic Association is an organization that focuses on promoting Irish culture and the Gaelic games for which it also governs. As a sport management major, my curiosities about the Gaelic sports and the GAA itself were astronomical. As a former self-proclaimed hurling star and current Waterford GAA Executive Committee member, Stunner was thrilled to answer my questions about hurling and the way the GAA is run. He invited me to attend a hurling match between Waterford and Tipperary, where I found myself in a crowd of over 50,000 fans and one of the most overwhelming and incredible experiences of my life. I was looking through a Waterford roster and a game program when I noticed something strange. Under each hurler's name, an occupation was listed. There were students, teachers, bankers among that list, and I couldn't quite understand how athletes drawing a crowd of 50,000 still needed normal jobs. Then Stunner told me something that confused me even more. These hurlers did not make any money at all for playing their sport. Well, they do it because they love it, he said. As an American, I was stunned, and as a business student, I was deeply confused about the system in place. I bought a book titled GAA Economics, and discovered that the money made from inter-county competition goes back into the clubs that do not have a similar revenue stream. The GAA system went against everything I learned in school, and everything America had taught me about time being equal to money. There's also that classic saying, if you're good at something, never do it for free. That was not the Irish way of thinking, and I couldn't help but fall even more in love with the country that had challenged my beliefs and made me question all of the things I thought I knew. My first true love not only changed my beliefs on what was important in life, it changed my career aspirations and the path I had desired for myself. Before Ireland, I hoped to end up in the front office of a professional sport organization. Today, my goal is much different. I hope to eventually start my own nonprofit that assists underfunded sport programs and expands access to sport programs for children all around the world. My love story with Ireland really did change my life. The dreams I have for myself today I owe entirely to the people and the culture that show me what truly matters. If you ask me what interests me most about Ireland, it honestly is everything. It's the history, the music, the humor, but most of all, it's the selfless culture that binds all those who submit to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Sam. Sam Haddad.
There is no freedom without the freedom of women. I am never in lack of awe of all the Maher of Ireland, both on our shores and abroad. St. Bridget, Countess Constance Markovic, Margaret Sanger, Bernadette Dublin, Mary Robinson. All strong Irish women I respect immensely. Therefore, what captivates me about Ireland is their legacy of strong, proud, and defying women. Like Margaret and Maher, I come from Amherst and Tipperary. Christina Griffin, nee Maher, was the first woman in her village of Youghalara to drive a car. My mother embodied that same bravery and strength of the unknown and new when she left Tipperary for the streets of New York. I see the strength and drive of my grandmother in her when she gets up to go to work at 4 in the morning to send me to a place like Mount Holyoke. I can only hope I can embody some of these traits that these women have lived every day of their lives. If it's one thing that these women in my life have taught me, it's that Ireland breeds Maher the draw. People can often have a very skewed view of what it means to be an Irish woman. Eamon de Valera made his thoughts quite clear on the matter. Oh, yeah. And this Mother Ireland archetype has haunted the narrative of Irish womanhood ever since. Had you forgotten the unsung women of 1916, where women prevailed, where Roger Casement failed? Ireland being personified as this woman needing protection, this victim sending her sons off to war, portrayed women living there in the same light. However, the brave women who helped create this state, this Irish Republic, would end up being silenced in the process of its creation. Women have been cut out of Irish history, figuratively by marginalizing their stories and experiences, but quite literally as well, most notably with Elizabeth O'Farrell, who was airbrushed from the famous photo of Padraig Pearse's 1916 surrender. Why are these experiences not the ones being told? I have never found the Mother Ireland archetype to be true. In fact, quite the opposite to the passive victim that Irish women are so commonly presented as. Irish women are strong as hell. This narrative must be rewritten. The perception of Irish women to me is resistance. For as long as Ireland has been fighting for autonomy of their land, Irish women have proved loyal comrades. Irish women challenged gender roles by smuggling arms, informing, and like Countess Constance Markovic, second in command at the time of revolution. However, for as long as Irish women have been fighting for autonomy of their land, they have been fighting for autonomy of their body. This should not be a marginalized history, a marginalized topic. St. Bridget, Ireland's female patron and saint, is to have said, with her most ineffable faith, blessed her, and caused the fetus to disappear without coming to term, and without pain. If St. Bridget has miraculously terminated a pregnancy, shouldn't we stop sending Irish women to other shores for healthcare? In a long line of Irish women, I must talk about the women who are currently working to repeal the 8th Amendment now, to legalize and decriminalize abortion on Irish shores, to stop the expelling of Irish women to other shores for abortion, working in the new line of Irish women's liberation like their sisters on the contraception train. Last summer, I worked tirelessly with the abortion rights campaign in Dublin on getting legislation passed and getting a referendum. When I awoke to the news that a referendum was called, I cried tears of joy. For too long in the Magdalen laundries, women have suffered under the crushing weight of the Irish patriarchal state. For too long, Irish women have been taking ferry and plane rides alone because Ireland believes not at all, just not at home. I respect all of the Irish women activists who have come before me, and I respect even more the women who bear this heavy shame that the Irish state has granted them for so long. Ireland has turned its back on the women who built it. My man Penny's favorite pen was the Planned Parenthood one I gave her for my reproductive rights work here. And when my mother called her and told her, Vice President Pence is trying to take abortion away from women here, my nanny replied, well, Jesus, isn't that very sad? As Sinn Féin member of European Parliament, Lynn Boylan said to me this summer, we need more women like her in Ireland. Irish women are the most captivating part of Ireland. They are the backbone of this nation. When I practice my activism working for women's rights, I say fight like Bernadette Devlin. When I demand human rights for others, I say be smart like Mary Robinson. And as I approach these situations, I say be kind and compassionate like Christina Griffin, me Maher. These women have given me the courage to defy Mother Ireland. These women have given me the courage to fight to repeal the 8th. They have given me the courage to write this essay. I could have written an essay about Ireland's beautiful shores or a rich cultural legacy, but I think being Irish shouldn't shun individuals away from this topic. I think being Irish is what has given me the strength and persistence to continue this resistance in which I find justice for Irish women. I believe in the full autonomy of the Irish land and its people. Why should we not have faith in the women in this country who are the foundation of this nation? Irish women are what make Ireland so special, unique, strong, and resilient. When Irish women are written back into history, this moment of repealing the 8th will be the historic moment when Ireland is catapulted into the future, and I will not let these women be forgotten. The history of Ireland rests on the backs of its women. Monsieur Shigol Shir Shanam Manal.
Thank you, Sam. And a little water.
Oh, I'll get it, yeah.
So, folks, we thought we'd open it up for a few minutes, a question each to our finalists from the audience, so that you have a chance to just maybe follow up on them.
Do you want to have the finalists?
Yes, would you mind standing up, please?
Yeah.
So a round of applause again for Okay, any questions? Okay.
Would you describe the
Sorry,
history?
who are you directing your question to?
Sam.
Okay.
The history and the content of this 8th Amendment?
Well, in 1983, there was a vote whether to add a constitutional amendment, whether to allow abortion or not. And essentially, there was a referendum held, and unfortunately, the majority of the country decided to make a constitutional amendment to prohibit abortion. But then in 1992, there was another referendum after a series of atrocious publicity cases involving sexual assault of minors. There was a rule added that you were allowed to travel to obtain abortions. But up until then, it was horrendous. They were screening women who were traveling abroad because if they were pregnant, they would hold them in detention because you would be committing a crime. And that's where that line comes in that I think really is powerful to me. Not at all, just not at home. So currently, Irish women are allowed to travel for abortions, but they're not allowed to have them on their own soil, which I think is appalling.
Okay, so the 8th Amendment, the right to life of the unborn is equal to the mother's life. That's the one that's being referred to. Thank you. So, question for one of our other presenters. Anybody in the audience?
Can you just tell us a little more about what your nonprofit looks like, or what you think it might look like going forward?
Well, right now, Bill Belichick has a foundation that is mainly for lacrosse and football, and his whole idea was bringing lacrosse and football to kids who can't afford lacrosse and football because those are expensive sports, and in general, building fields where places can't afford them. And like in Ireland, it's on the villages themselves to kind of come up with the money to do that and to ask the GA for the money to do that, to build their fields and everything. So my idea would be to basically go to places that can't afford to build their fields or whatever, or have their equipment, and get more kids involved in sports, because if they're where they're from doesn't have the money to give them the sports, and who's going to do it, then they just don't get to play at all. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Yes.
My name is James Sullivan. I don't have a question. I just want to thank you for being so eloquent and really proud of you up there, speaking beautifully and writing so beautifully. Thank you.
Let's have a round of applause.
My question is to you. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of poetry that you like to write?
So I actually luckily got into a writing poetry class this semester, which I've been trying to get into since I got into Amherst, and I got the professor before he retired. So I've kind of been exploring my own style. I wish I could be as succinct as Emily Dickinson, but unfortunately that's not my gift. I like free verse, but I would say that I like to do a lot of kind of like word twists and exploring things that I haven't figured out myself, and I like to think of it as writing into the question. So a lot of times if something's bothering me or if something happens to me that I'd like to reflect on, I tend to write about it in poetry because it feels, like I said, I don't expect perfection from myself, and a big thing that my orientation program helped me with was realizing that a poem can also have drafts like any other piece of fiction or nonfiction. And I think there's an exhibit in the Emily Dickinson Museum where you get to see all the different words that she could have chosen for poems, and that was really influential for me. And I think in this class I've kind of discovered that I do like writing a lot about my family and my experiences, but I also like to try and figure out things that connect me to others, and the feedback from my class has been really helpful with that.
Excellent, thank you all. If you would remain standing, I would like to have Susan Garrity, Michelle, Vice Consul of Boston, say a few words. And if you come to the middle here, Susan, so we can get you on a recording as well. Thank you.
Well, first, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Our Consul General, Finola Quinlan, could not be here, but the council was so excited about this competition. A lot of women at the consulate, and just hearing of the competition, loving Emily Dickinson, and reading all of your wonderful essays, has been a joy for me. So thank you very much. Another round of applause. And I am a little late to hearing about the competition, but really the story of Maggie touched me because it really resonated with what I remember. My grandmother, Katie Kerrigan, had come over after World War II and was a nanny with a family on Fifth Avenue in New York. And got chatting over tea with the chauffeur, and lo and behold, they got married. But they stayed very intertwined, with that family, and you could see, the lives, through the good times of the 20s, and then through the Depression, and then as their children fought in, World War II together, and just that Irish-American story continuing on many levels. So, knowing that Maggie was so connected with the Dickinson family, it really spoke to me as well. So we come to the moment, and it's a terribly difficult decision because they're all passionate, and really the exciting note that Finola Quinlan mentioned is that all are looking to the future, which we really see in Ireland today. Women, culture and language and sports, and how all of those touch the culture of Ireland. And as Ireland moves to take a greater role in the world, all of this will be so important, and particularly with women in Ireland. So I would like to congratulate the first essay award winner of the Margaret Maher competition.
Free flight to Ireland.
Yes, is awarded to Monica.
sentiments. It was just an absolute pleasure to hear what you all had to say, and you are all winners today. And we are happy to present you with your copy of the complete works of Emily Dickinson. And I would offer free tickets, but of course it's free for 5 college students to come see it. You don't need those, so come see us soon, and congratulations to all of you.
Monica, we are going to ask, after you've had your trip to Ireland, that you come back and let us know about it if you would. And Heather and Sam, don't forget us. The tea and scones, wait for you to taste them. We'd love to know more about you, your interests and your passion. It's been a real honour. Congratulations to you all. Now be served. Give us a moment to set up, and make sure you say hello to somebody that you haven't met before, and make sure you